that was a vulture, a predator, like that would just deal with dead things. God's people have nothing to do with dead things. Pork, major thing. See, here, we have issues of holiness, but their issue of holiness, because it was physical, pork. That was sin right there. See, in some ways it was easier because it's right there. You know it. That's sin. Right now, so right there it is. There's no argument. Pork is, if you eat the pork, it's sin. Back then, it could be the destruction of a man's life. If you ate a little piece of ham by accident, you were backsliding. Back then. A testimony back then would be very different. It'd be like, hey, I was at a party and there's a buffet table. I was getting a salad. I noticed some bacon bits. I figured just a little bit won't do any harm. A little bit. Moses wasn't thinking about bacon bits. Anyway, it was a Caesar salad. It wasn't Jewish anyway. A little indulgent. I started having the bacon bits. And then every time I had a salad, I needed more bacon bits. And then I needed bacon itself. And then I started getting a bacon supplier, uncut bacon. Pretty soon I'm having bacon with everything. Before I know it, bacons aren't enough. I need a pan everywhere I go, and to fry sausages, I keep it wrapped up. I'm hooked on unkosher food. My life starts falling apart. My business, I'm frying wherever I go. I'm frying, and then it's pig's feet, and it's the harder stuff, calamari and glazed ham, and then finally I have my first can of Spam. I was a Spamaholic. I checked into a rehab. The point is, back then, that's how they thought. With reason, because God spoke to them in that way. So you have to understand that to see what Peter is dealing with. My grandmother was raised as the equivalent of an Orthodox Jewish home in Russia. When she moved out on her own, got married, came to New York, she occasionally had bacon. It was a strange thing. Many Jewish people grow up in America, and they'll never have ham, but bacon, for some reason, I don't know what it was. We had bacon all the time, but ham, well, I don't know about ham. We had bacon there. But one time, her mother once came over her apartment and she had bacon, and so she stalled her mother. She ran out, took the bacon, the frozen bacon, and threw it into the oven so her mother would not see it. She felt guilty about it though, her rest of her life. She felt guilty about having the bacon. And one time my parents were away and my grandmother was taking care of us, and she wanted us to make a food list to go shopping, and I put on it Underwood deviled ham. And she freaked out. It caused a big crisis in the family. We had discussions about it, and I thought we were going to have to call in counseling. It was a heavy, we talked about it late in the night. And the first person the name was deviled. I mean, if you're a Christian, that's already out. But deviled ham, well, it gets you on both counts, It was a major crisis in my grandma's life. And finally she kind of broke and went out and bought it. I think she did it in the middle of the night, and I think she had a disguise on, but she bought the deviled ham. I caused my grandmother to stumble. But this is the mindset that you have to understand what's going on here. It's recorded in the book of Maccabees, the Jewish people, which is not, it's a historical book, confronted with eating unkosher food or dying, they chose to die rather than to eat ham. So to Peter, this whole world is being blown apart. His theology is crumbling. His world is crumbling. It's not just about going out to the Gentiles. This is all about going out to the Gentiles. It's really not about food. It wasn't saying that God is saying now Jewish people have to eat these things. That's not what it's saying. But to Peter, it looks like the whole Torah is collapsing and God's making it collapse. The one who made the Torah, what's going on here? The one who said you can't do it. You're contradicting everything, Lord. Verse 15. And again a voice came to him a second time and said, what God has cleansed, no longer call unholy. What God has cleansed, no longer call unholy. And God speaks 3 times to make a point. Peter is learning something. If it looks as if God is wrong, you have a difference with God right now, maybe right now, an argument with God, it means God wants to change you. If you have an argument with God, if it looks like He's wrong, it means God wants to change you. That's what it means. And it means when you change, there's going to be a blessing. When you surrender, there's going to be a blessing. When you think you've arrived with God, you stop journeying. When you realize you need work and you need to change. The vision was shocking because God knew only a shock would open up the gates of heaven. Only a shock would shock Peter out of the old thinking, out of his old life. He used to be shocked. So with us. It's like God tells us things and we still don't do it. It's like we're sleeping. And God, you say, oh, in the future I'll do it, in the future I'll do it, in the future I'm not going to change, until you're shocked one day to wake up and get it together. Peter learns that God is higher than reason. He's higher than our understanding. No matter what we understand, God is beyond it. He learns that God is higher than religion. He often contradicts it. God is even higher than our ideas about God. God is higher than our ideas about holiness. Even our ideas about God, often God has to break it because they become an idol, our religion. God said to Simon Peter, arise and kill. Now this brings us, as we bring this home, and we're going to get more into this vision the next time we do it, the meaning of it. But this is the first whole thing God wants to do and he wants to do with us. God says to Peter, arise and kill. Now the thing is, how do you kill a vision? Well, God is killing a vision. That's what God's doing. God is killing a vision. God is killing an old vision. He's bringing an old world to an end for Peter. God's killing a vision that is too small that he might replace it with one that is large. God is saying to Peter, unless you change your old and accept the end of the old, you will not accept the new. The old view of life is too small, too petty, it's got to die. Not that the law was wrong, the law was good, all that was good. But now it's too small. God is doing a new thing, that's what he's trying to do. And we are very resistant to new things. In fact, even Peter, of all people, was resistant to God's new thing. God is teaching us a lesson, even in the Lord. Change starts with an old vision dying. God is saying the old thing has to die. Let the old dream be broken. It's okay that you can receive something greater for your life. Simon Peter learned from his birth the Torah, the law. And now God is saying, I know it. I made it. You don't have to explain it to me. I made it. It's right. It's good. But now it's something better. I'm higher. Salvation is greater than the law. The new covenant is the fulfillment of the law. God is saying this morning, my ways are greater than your ways. They're not just higher, they're bigger. And my will for you is bigger than your will for you. My will for your life is better than your will for your life. And my vision for your life is greater and bigger and better than your vision for your life. But you have to break out of the old and accept what I'm saying. The new covenant is the fulfillment of the law. Thus we declare the old, it gives us the power to declare the old laws of sin and death dead in our life. In the new covenant, God is saying, Peter, it's a new day. It's a new day, and whatever was binding you before, good or bad, it is no longer to bind you anymore. The old laws, if God can do this with something that is holy, because it was holy, the Torah is holy. But if God can say, now you are not bound by that, how much more is God saying you're not bound by any law of sin and death? God is saying, I am calling you to a better, bigger, greater vision in your life. A vision of love, a vision of you that's better than you ever saw yourself. You have the power in the new covenant to declare all the old laws dead. The law of lust, dead. The law of anger, dead. The law of a bad marriage, dead. The law of bad relationship, dead. The law of unforgiveness and bitterness, dead. The law of depression, dead. The law of slavery, dead. The law of addiction, dead. It is a new covenant, a new day. There is a new thing, the law of gloom, dead. The law of defeat, dead. Of guilt and regret, dead. Of condemnation, dead. The laws of the past, dead. It is a new covenant, a new day. You need a new vision. You need a vision of pork chops against which there is no law. All because of God's new covenant. All because of his heavenly pork chops. You are free to God's will and glory.